Welcome, welcome everybody. Today is June 17th, 2010, and we are here to discuss the energy of Jupiter and Uranus getting together through Pisces and Aries, but primarily moving into this Aries stretch. They actually got together for their first activation on June 8th. So we're still basking in this energy field, and I'd like everyone to just get centered wherever you are. Make sure you're comfortable. Invite all your angels and guides and ancestors, benevolent energies that want to help guide and support this circle, including those bodies who can't physically make it but are here with us in spirit. We send lots of blessings and energy all out to the entire Power Circle community and beyond. All of our circles are combined now and overlapping. It's just beautiful. Okay, welcome everyone. Jupiter and Uranus hitting Aries. Okay, that's our headline, but of course we're going to cover lots more as there's so many other things involved with these two stepping foot into the beginning of the zodiac. This is huge. Jupiter has a 12-year cycle and Uranus has an 84-year cycle. So neither one of them have seen Aries in that long, and that's quite a bit of time. I'd like to open with a Daily Guru, and that's from thedailyguru.com. And this one says, illness and adversity strip away the superficialities in our daily lives, bringing us face to face with the bare essentials in life. These difficult and unexpected developments are one more way we are introduced to the larger mystery of life. And Jupiter is our truth and story. Uranus is freedom and liberation. We are telling a new story, and we all need to step into our respective roles here and make the commitment to ourselves and each other and the planet to move with the change and to facilitate change on these micro levels so that the macro shifts. You know my philosophy, when the individuals get it together, the globe will be okay. So I will include all the dates and things, not to rattle your brain too much this early in the evening, but basically they both hit Pisces. Jupiter hit Pisces in January and sped extremely fast. Normal is a year with a couple of months of a retrograde, which takes it back and forth over certain territory within the zodiac sign. In this case, it went through in 6 months, hit Aries, is going to go back into Pisces, back and forth in Pisces before it hits Aries again. And this is going to all happen pretty fast within this year. Okay, so we have this 1 year. Eventually, it adds up to a year in Aries. Across from Saturn, stepping foot into Libra in July, is across from Aries. They are opposite each other. So I want everyone real present to the polarities, because we're going to be dealing with the tension of the opposites, and we're going to be dealing with exact hits when the planets get together, which are considered conjunctions, and amplify each other's power, making everything bigger. And anything Jupiter touches makes it bigger. So that's already on the table. That's a given. And in this case, we have this 1 year of Jupiter. We've got about 2.5 years of Saturn in Libra, to the 7 years of Uranus in Aries, to the 16 years of Pluto in Capricorn, which has all these guys engaged over the next couple of years that we're in right now. Right now, we're already there. So we just want to understand how to recognize things as they come up and accept the retrograde periods as blessings, not inconveniences. Okay, retrograde just means a change of direction, turning the energy and the focus inward. These are opportunities that most of the planets give us pretty regular schedules to work with it on. You know, every year, every couple of years, they all have their little process that they go through. But eventually, other than the sun and moon, they all do these retrograde periods that allow us some do-overs. They allow us the review that we need to actually process the energies as they're occurring, which is extremely useful. And it gives you permission to pull back and do some processing. So sometimes in this fast-paced, forward-moving, ever-evolving world that we live in, we need that permission to pull back, because it's absolutely imperative that we do that periodically. Okay, and so working with the planets is one of the reasons I love it, because it gives me a schedule of when to work on what. So right now we're working on truth and freedom, whatever that means to you on an individual level. And then you need to broaden that scope, because Jupiter is a social planet and Uranus is a collective planet. So those two getting together are moving big social groups and the collective along in its evolutionary path. And it's all natural. It's not good or bad. It just is. and let's just work with it, whatever's available. And the new beginning energy is huge, so we're getting a little taste of it. But two of the three activations that Jupiter and Uranus are going to do together are going to be back in Pisces. So the bulk of this work is completion. We have double completion to the singular initiation energy that we're working here. So we know that we have to finish this up, and we know that it's going to be 12 to 84 years before we work with it this way again, or ever, because the other planets and their alignments make this very rare and special this particular year. This whole time, 2004 to 2012 is this whole window of activations that are just back to back to back, and this is just one of them. So as they do their thing, we have to keep in mind it's going to dip back into Pisces. So some of the things that got initiated now, while they were both forward and both moving on their natural tracks here, that's just, don't be surprised if there are some do-overs. That's what usually happens. We get this first burst of initiation, we've got the new direction, we can feel it coming in, and then there's this yank back. Oh no, you're not done with the work back here yet. So Pisces is all about surrender and let go and let God, and it is tested. Its opposite is Virgo. So if you get too caught up in systems, or the systems are no longer working, which is what Saturn's been working on for the last 2 years, has been recalibrating the systems of your personal, social, and collective lives. And that is allowing us to heal certain things and fuse certain fragments so that moving into the Libra realm, when we have to go play with others, that we can play a little nicer and hopefully come from a center of truth, and we will go to working on balance after that. Once we get the healing, then we have to recalibrate so that we can move out into the social realms and be effective. So right now there is some big stuff to consider. First of all, Jupiter and Uranus only get together, I think it's every 14 years. So that's 2 of those 7-year cycles, if they need to break it down. I like to tell people when working with Jupiter, it's a 12-year cycle with 3-year increments. Uranus is an 84-year cycle with 7-year increments. So we break those up into bigger chunks of 21 and 42. So we know that a lot of these alignments that we're facing here and now today, we're either in the exact same positions and signs or opposite these exact same positions and signs in the 60s. So the vibration right now is very 60s-ish, but consider that it's not that time. That's still the past. So here and now, based on the knowledge and evolution and education and understanding and consciousness that we have gained and garnered along the way, we need to make some new decisions. And there are several things that are clearly repeated mistakes. So just keep in mind these kind of tests that come over and over, they're going to give you the same test over and over till you pass. So I live on the Gulf of Mexico, so I feel the Gulf calamity very personally. At the same time, I do also feel that it's a tipping point and it's the last straw, and it finally is waking up a whole chunk of people who weren't totally aware or awake to the whole oil concept and what it's doing to us and all of that. So the awakening process is happening, and this is Uranus's way. Uranus comes in and just blasts it out. 1, 2, 3, switch. Let's go. It's a new day. Get in where you fit in. It's huge, and it's unsettling. It's not as much fun for my creatures of comfort here who like their habits and their routines. It's time to develop completely new routines, and Pisces is the realm of addictions and habits and all those kind of things. So we are releasing those. We had to dive into them to figure, to get more understanding, but it is all about realizing that we don't need to go to sleep. We don't need to be completely numb. We actually need our intuitive faculties and our ability to sense things around us sharpened, not numbed and disabled, which is what a lot has been going on. So we want to tune in to healthy boundaries and effective sensitivity, where it's not too much or not enough. We've got to strike that balance, which is hard to maintain, but it's possible. It's not completely impossible. So to go through the flow here, I've learned my lesson in the past of doing multiple planets on one call. So I just want to run through some Jupiter things first, then I'll run through some Uranus things, and we can't help but bring in Saturn and Pluto because they're part of this alignment. So as important as it is for these two to get together, the bigger story is the combination of activations that it's setting off. Okay, and it's just a theme that we need to tune into. The cardinal theme is all about initiation and getting things moving. And when you think about the cardinal signs in the zodiac are Aries, Libra, which are opposite each other, 2 sides of the same energy, self versus other, and Cancer, Capricorn, which is home versus work. Okay, so here we have the individual and relationships, home and work. Very extremely basic 101 fundamental human things. This is what we deal with all the time, no matter what the planets are doing or where they're at. Now they're engaged and they're engaging each other across this. So this is new beginnings of huge proportions. So try to tune in to clearing and releasing the past, not pouring good money after bad or good resources after bad. Anything that is failing or dying on the vine, it's probably time to go. And I do like to remind people that none of the planets are malicious. No, there is no great big huge being sitting up there keeping score and tallying up tit for tat kind of mentality. We don't do that in the universe. This is just energy and flow. And sometimes it's blocked and sometimes it's open and rolling. And we just have to learn how to move with it. So for Jupiter and the story and the truth, like I said, you want to think in terms of 12 years. What was going on 12 years ago that maybe wasn't working? A truth, a philosophy, a belief that you held really near and dear may not actually hold water today. So we always have to tune in and do this review, where Sagittarius and Pisces are both the signs that Jupiter rules. So we have this very deep Pisces realm, the God spirituality definitely involved, that Neptune dissolving boundaries thing is going on as well. So any boundaries that hold up people's belief systems or separate them, like religion, that is all part of what is changing. And we're recognizing the oneness, which is Pisces' job. It's to blur all the lines and let you know we are all connected. And in that regard, we've had to really move through this process of what's real or what's not, what's true or what's not, what do we really believe or not, or what, used to be true may not be true anymore. It doesn't invalidate it completely. It doesn't make it ever wrong. It's just not true here and now today. So we want to adjust with the times. And in this case, we are going to have some back and forth. So I want to run through some of the Jupiter principles. Do have a lot to do with everything: expansion, education, research, expanding your knowledge and wisdom. It's gathering information and then sorting and sifting and processing it, figuring out what's actually useful and relevant and what's actually true. And how can we translate all of the little bits and pieces that we pick up along the way into some type of story or some type of wisdom. And certainly these two getting together like this now make me think about how all along I've said people learn in very different ways. And now that the human family has grown so exponentially, we realize that there's an infinite number of ways that people send and receive information through their own beings now. And that's part of the opening. It's part of the connection to everything that's going on. It's all divine order and divine timing, and we're completely supported to stepping into this. So for those of us that have been practicing telepathy and then practicing listening to our intuition and strengthening it, remember, intuition's like a muscle. You've got to use it. And sometimes you'll be wrong, but you'll learn something. So you always want to get that lesson, and Jupiter is all about that lesson. Make sure you learn something from all of it that develops and cultivates a truth or an ethics of your own, a personal ethics or integrity within your own being. That's Jupiter's realm. So on the micro level, it has to do with your personal story and standing on your truth and being authentic on certain levels. And on the social realms, it's the bigger story. It's the collective story moving along. And it does make everything bigger. It expands things. Okay, that's why across from Saturn, which consolidates things, brings in its own little dynamic. Okay, so I'm always telling people it's not an either or. We have to do both. Sometimes we have to consolidate and sometimes we have to expand. Being connected to your intuition helps you determine when to do what. So at this point, we are moving in forward direction. I think they're going to retrograde. The retrogrades are happening in July. July 5th for Uranus, July 23rd. So those are 2 5 days. 5 rules change. We're going to talk about that 7 also. And they're both going backwards in Aries, which is an activation point. You've got to keep that in mind. Whatever degree it goes backwards on is relevant. And then it's going to go forward in Pisces. So the review initially is about this new beginning, and then it pours into this completion work. Did you complete everything? It's going to give you an opportunity to complete everything that you can that has anything to do with the last 12 years. And because Uranus is such a big cycle, we're going to just go with the 21 years. So we're talking the last time these two were interacting was late 80s. I want to say 88 to 90. Just so you also know, that whole 1990 range also had the Cancer Capricorn eclipses and the Capricorn North Node, which is your life path. Eclipses are course corrections. We are already in the realm of that coming in this summer as well. So there's a lot to process. But right now I want you to stay focused on the story, on learning through storytelling and games and theater, realizing that some people need to listen to audio, some people want to read the words, some people want to participate live, some people don't mind doing work on their own, some people want to do group work. There's a time and place for all of it, and all of it is relevant and useful. So you just want to do what works for you and use this time to gather information, especially right now, because like I said, as we move into the summer months, July and August are going to bring such big changes, and these guys are all going to move into their positions permanently. I mean, right now it's a little back and forth and unsettled and chaotic, and you're not sure if you're coming or going. That's all par for the course. Don't be upset. It just is what it is. Do the best you can in each moment. This is what we've been working on with the Saturn-Uranus activation over the last couple of years, has been to establish some kind of structured spiritual practice. A lot of us are more into spirituality than actual organized religion and churches and things, but we have our own version of church. I use the ocean. Some of us use our bodies as temples. There's all kinds of ways for us to honor spirit, but the most important thing is to do it, is to take the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever you've got, 2 or 3 times a day. Sunrise and sunset are the times of day that the veils are thinner. Every single day we have an opportunity to greet the day and close the day. If you get in that natural rhythm of light and shadow doesn't seem so hard to deal with anymore. It's natural, it's part of it. So we want to get in that rhythm. And we want to make sure for the Jupiter side of this, Jupiter, like I said, is all about what we believe. So are you stuck on belief systems that no longer serve where you are here and now? How's that going? What kind of story are you telling? What kind of story do you want to tell? And if you can't wrap your brain around 12 years, like I said, just go 3 at a time. The Trinity energy is extremely potent to work with. So anything you really want done over the next 3 years of this Aries Libra new beginning and the Cancer Capricorn initiating all new ways of home and work is all getting a makeover as well. This 3-year period that we're in now, basically 2009 to 2012 or 2010 to 2013, this realm that we're in is it. And this is the anchoring of the new beginning. And just keep in mind, how you start is how you're going to finish. So we want to start on a good foot as best we can. And we want to release any baggage, anything that's weighing you down or holding you back or has nothing to do with present moment. Let it go. We need to break the realign. We really do. You've got to let it go in order for it to be recycled into something more useful for the time. And that's where we are. And Jupiter brings up the whole concept of being tolerant of other people's belief systems. So we have to be okay with disagreeing. And remember my thing about that. If you don't disagree these days, it used to be we could disagree or not say anything to avoid a confrontation. Now, if you don't disagree, people assume you agree. And then they label that as your truth, and it just causes problems. So now we have to stand up, own our truth, speak our truth, and stand on it no matter what. And that doesn't mean be dogmatic. It doesn't mean don't be flexible and open to ideas. But as Caroline would say, we want to entertain the possibilities. We don't want to believe nothing, entertain possibilities. That's what we're doing right now, because in the beginning, it's all possibilities. It's all what is possible. It's all in front of us. And we have to keep that in mind. We want to look back for learning, for frame of reference, for information and guidance, and certainly, like I said, for all the major global macro repeated mistakes going on. I know we got some micro individual ones. So wherever you continue to repeat these mistakes or these habits or these patterns in your life, if you're really ready to break them, now is the time. This is it. Everything is supporting change. Everything is supporting change. There's not a lot in here that's holding on to the status quo or the old ways of operating. So if you're really ready to change, change is in the air. So tune in. And again, it has to do with your fundamentals, your individual self, as well as your relationships. Recalibration is underway. And it has to do with how you do home and family and work and career, your contribution to society. And because we've gone through all these different processes along the way that have taken us out on our own little individual paths, we've forgotten that eternal connection to the whole. And we have to remember that. And that's what a lot of the Pisces realm reminds us of, but you can drown in it, you can get lost in it. So we have to maintain that Virgo structure, giving that water and earthly flow. We want to give it a way to go, a way to be effective. And then it's fine. But if you go into overwhelm, you blow your circuits, you shut down, you're not doing anything. So we don't want to do that. In this case, we just want to define our truth. We want to do some healing completion work because it is going to go back and forth over Pisces before we move into Aries. And Aries is all about independence. And in order to be independent, you have to be responsible for yourself and whatever it is you create. So whether it's children life forms or project life forms, you're responsible for everything that you create. And at this time, because nothing's in place, one, anything's possible. I do believe that. And two, you've got to take care of yourself because the bigger structures that usually help support society are the ones that are undergoing the biggest change. Pluto through Capricorn is reworking it all. All institutions, government, education, healthcare, everything that supports and helps humans on the big group levels is undergoing a shift. And that is all on time. It's all perfectly on time. And so we just want to be tuned into the piece of the story that you're telling as an individual. That's all we're doing at this point is what story are you trying to tell, what's relevant and useful, and how can you tune in and get some new energy flowing, which Aries is going to help us do. And we just want to broaden the vision, in that case expanding your ideas, expanding your mind. You don't necessarily have to buy into it, all of it, but you do have to sort of open up to other ways of functioning and invite it, because as these planets do their thing in the sky and they activate each other, it's just going to be it's ongoing for the next several months for sure. It's going to be very intense, radical out of the blue endings, radical out of the blue new beginnings, all par for the course. So just being centered within your own being is what we're shooting for here in the power circle. It's all about having our practice in place, understanding that this is what it is, this is what's going on, this is what we're working with, and how can we be centered and come from truth and from our own center within. It's very important because these are simultaneous. So as truth and freedom starts breaking things up and getting things moving and clearing out the past and preparing the way for the new beginnings, it's going to freak some people out, but it's not the end of the world. It's just the end of the world as we know it. So let's move into telling that new story, and what kind of characters do you want to be part of your story, and where is it playing out on the globe? How can you, once we have this opposition going on between Saturn in Libra, recalibrating all relationships, how we relate, period, is going to get a recalibration over the next 2 years. So as we initiate here with Jupiter and Uranus and Aries, we want to initiate, or at least know, what our individual truth is and what makes us feel free within the context of a family or a community or a relationship. All of that is on the table for the next 1 to 3 years. And so it's going to go, through waves of intensity, but it's here. So let's work with it. And in that case, if you are in relationships that are crumbling or changing dynamically, it's just, again, it's right on time. This is what it is. So go with it. And this is the chance to renegotiate, and it's the chance to get your vote in and discuss who you are at this new level and how can we embody that completely. Okay, you do want us to be able to stand on your authentic self, which is what the Mars retrograde through Leo was all about, recalibrating you so that you could come from heart center, figuring out what you really deeply want in your heart of hearts. And now we're going to move forward and do it in 3D. And so I want you thinking in terms of those oppositions. Jupiter and Uranus are still opposite Saturn, and I have this little list of words that we can play with where we have to integrate. Any opposition usually means we're going to swing from extremes before we find the happy medium. In this case, again, I just want you aware of when the scales tip too much in one direction or the other. We want to integrate the ability to expand, which is Jupiter, or consolidate, which is Saturn. Uranus is expanding all kinds of things on multidimensional realms, but it's lending so much weight to this 1 year process of Jupiter's. Idealism and realism. We want a healthy balance of these things as well. Your dream and the practical steps to getting there. That's some Pisces work. Generosity, along with balance and logic. Okay, that's a Sag principle. It can be very, very generous and over the top, but we want to balance that out with some logical thinking. Think Gemini. And wealth versus service. Okay, we've been working a lot on the power circle, finding different ways to observe how wealthy we really are, certainly in the US, and to count our blessings and to count those things. I use this story about the water. I have 5-gallon jugs delivered to my door of water while there's people in the world that have to walk 30 miles to the nearest well to get their daily portion of water that they need to function, to live. So we're back to fundamentals, basic 101. This has to change. There's no reason why. There's definitely enough for everybody. It's just the distribution that has to change. And that's what's underway now, so we can support that vision of change through our little individual steps. How we recalibrate on these micro levels is going to move the wave along out into the collective. I promise you, do it on your level first. Handle your business first. Organize your household first. Get your body, mind, and spirit in alignment first. And then you can be much more effective in the larger realms. We want to balance out growth with integration. Okay, think in terms of stop, organize, go. Stop, organize, go. This is how the energies flow. It comes in and it blasts you into new territory. It gets you awake to new ideas and concepts and principles, and it makes you aware of different aspects of your being that are working or not working. Okay, that initial shock, which again is Uranus's domain, gets you going, but then you have to slow down, which is why retrogrades are so useful. When that happens, we get permission to slow down and process all that's happening. Okay, these endings and new beginnings I wish I had another language for it. It makes it seem so small when it's so magnificent and so huge and on such grand scales internally and externally. These big, big, big endings and new beginnings are underway. So we want to process that, because whatever you don't process is going to blow up on you somewhere else down the road. Just know that. So let's do as much integration. Growth is great, but how do you integrate? Okay, you can't, this is what's wrong with the culture at this point in the US is expand, 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 bigger, 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 more. That's not sustainable. It's not practical. And it's not even that much fun, as we found out. So tuning in to doing your expansion work, yes, but then integrating it into everyday flow so that it works and it's effective and it's useful. We have the grand view, the big picture. So you do want to get some perspective every now and then, as well as the little details and the glue that holds it all together, the little things that make the big thing work. And then we want, definitely keep your sense of humor, but enthusiasm versus seriousness. There's a time and place where we need to be fiery and enthusiastic and open and having fun with it. And there's another time where we need to get very practical and serious about the things that are on deck. These are no small issues that we're facing right now, individually, socially, or collectively. So again, with not going into overwhelm, where you shut down completely, but picking the piece that moves you the most, for better or worse. We want to channel any rage into outrage. Rage is immobilizing, outrage is mobilizing. It moves you to action, to effective, useful action. So we want to work with the emotions that come up. Don't be upset that you're emotion. You're a human. You're emotional. It's the way it goes. Some people have more, some people have less, but you want to tune in because those kind of emotions are trying to get your attention. Moods are your messengers. They're trying to get your attention, to tell you something, to give you a message of some sort. Our bodies are directly wired in to Mother and the universe. And so we have to remember, if we would stop slowing down the bodily functions with drugs and food and everything else, we could actually hear the directions that the body is trying to give us. So remember, where's my Janice? Where's my body dialogues, Janice? The body's a communicator, and that's a big piece of this puzzle, tuning into your heartbeat and your rhythm. Your heart is the only electromagnetic organ in your body that definitely connects you to the electromagnetic field. So we want to understand that we are one, and killing off any piece of the planet is killing off a piece of your own being. You better believe it. So we are reclaiming our independence and our freedom to make choices and decisions that are a little more all-encompassing. They're a little more of that broad perspective. We want that, but then come down to the individual thing you can do here and now today. Don't blow your circuits completely and pick something. You're not going to fix it all. You're not going to do it all. So pick one thing, maybe two, that you really, really care about, that you just have to contribute to, and do that. And just be okay with that being your piece. You're not going to be able to do it all. You're going to join with other people who have their little piece, and we're going to add it in, and it's going to expand this way. We want faith balanced with hard work. Okay, Jupiter's all about the faith and the belief system and what we believe is possible, and having that sight and that far-reaching vision. But Saturn says, okay, 3D, baby, you live here. How are you going to do that in physical reality here? And how does that translate? And so there again, we have the boundless Jupiter all the way out into the stratosphere, and Saturn brings in the boundaries. And that Chiron moving through Pisces, now we have 8 years of Chiron doing some healing work there. And the only other reminder I want to give you guys about planets leaving signs and going into new signs is the test. Okay, heads up everybody, tests are coming. They are, most of them are here already. But as they leave these signs, you have to remember that you're going to get tested on this material. So as it moved through Aquarius, Chiron moved through Aquarius, it woke humanity up to a certain extent to the wounds, the deep wounds to our beings and our planet. And it got everyone awake to that. Now it's going to move through Pisces and say, okay, I understand that big picture, but how did I get lost in the sauce here? And where are my own sensitivities keeping me from actually hearing or sensing what's real or what's not, or being able to discern that? So just being aware that sensitivity and victim consciousness, think of light and shadow expressions of Pisces. What do you know about Pisces Virgo, and when it's functioning at optimal levels and when it's deep in shadow realm? That's what we're going to be seeing a lot of over the next 8 years, while Chiron kind of, unfortunately, most of the time it has to rip it open to heal it properly, because part of the reason we still have these wounds is because they never healed properly to begin with. So anything that you've got cooking on your own, and wherever Pisces is in your chart, is where maybe there's some deep work there that you're working on. And Chiron has a 51-year process. And so think of that at the end of 50 years, and that puts us right back at 1960. So we have all, like I said, there's just so many correlations back to that time that we want to keep that in mind. How many things did we do that worked, and implementations that were useful in the long run? How many were not and need to be completely revised and revisioned from fundamental levels on out? And how much of it can we actually build on that took root, that is okay and working to a certain extent but needs to be expanded on, and how much is just complete crap, it never worked from day one and we've been limping along with it this way until now, when Uranus says and 84 years, ding, we're done, let's move on to this new realm and do it a different way. And unfortunately with Aries, a lot of times it's like just want to do different to be doing different, and it doesn't take a long time to process. All of a sudden it's just new territory. So be prepared for sudden movements that a lot of us in our sleepy little Cancer caves haven't wanted to deal with. It's time. It's time to move your body again. It's time to lighten your load on many levels, materially and otherwise, and get back into the flow of life on some level. We want to balance out the infinite with the limited. We are spirits in human form, so we have to manage our duality day in and day out all the time. But now on the global scale, it's even bigger, and it's happening across the board. And Pisces is the end. It's that collection of everything. Okay, we move through the zodiac and we come to this Piscean womb-like realm where we have completed something, and yet we're gestating and preparing for rebirth next. And so it's a constant repeating cycle. We want to get okay with that process as well. So let's see what else we've got here. And just reminders of when they do go retrograde. Jupiter retrograde is time to edit your story. When Uranus retrogrades, it's time to process those ideas and build on them, and not quite forward movement yet, but preparing for that energy, gathering that energy and preparing for forward motion, where hopefully, if you're working it super consciously, then there's almost like a little valve that you can open up to release the energy at your own pace. If you're conscious enough and you're containing what you've created, nurturing and protecting what you've created in the healthiest, most optimal way. However, very often, a lot of things that we're working on behind the scenes during retrograde periods burst forth the minute the planet goes forward. So just paying attention to those times. Remember, anytime a planet changes signs or direction, it slows down and it beams this concentrated energy down to us. And that's something to really consider at the times of shift. Like I said, that's going to be July. So we're working in through June. July 5th, Uranus goes back, and July 23rd, Jupiter will go back. So we don't want to be extreme. You don't want to go self versus other too extreme, but you do want to secure your mask first. You want to get yourself organized and balanced and recalibrated before you go trying to run other people's lives. So let's keep that down to a minimum as much as possible. And staying as centered and grounded in your body is really useful. Speaking up for yourself, asking questions. Okay, I can't stress this enough. Question everything. Start with you, questioning your thoughts, questioning your beliefs, questioning what you hold to be real or true or eternal or temporary. Watch those labels. Labels limit things. So right now we're opening up to possibilities, but you do want to question everything and see if it still holds water here and now in the space you are now. And this has a lot to do with things we've discussed in past calls in terms of how we have gone along out of habit. Habitual thinking or habitual behavior is going to get you tripped up in this new realm because we're in just such new territory. Things aren't what they used to be. So you really have to pay attention to here. And if you are telling a new story and you catch yourself in old paradigms or old stories or old people and characters in your story, catch yourself in the moment. Don't be mad about it. It's gonna happen. That's one thing I can tell you. It will happen, but catch yourself in that moment and correct yourself. That story is done and over. I don't even know why I repeated it. Here we are. We're in this time, in this place, in this space. And what happens is we've all been moved, okay, over the last several years into new internal, individual, human level new territory. And we're still realizing that there's habits we weren't even completely cognizant of that we're perpetuating. So again, it's just a rhythm and flow. It's just catching yourself in the moment and doing it for yourself because everybody else is occupied right now with their own stuff. So a lot of people that may used to be available for you that are not available for you now, don't be mad. It just is the way it is. Allow them their space to do what they have to do to recalibrate and get on their feet before they can collaborate again. And that's okay as well. But don't continue these old stories and old patterns because you're going to be stuck in the past while the future is roaring through the door. I mean, we're here, we're in it. Be aware, be alert to your surroundings. That's where you're centered in your own body, you're connected to your heart, you're connected to your own rhythm, but you're alert and you're aware and you're paying attention to things that are happening around you. And don't worry about how many people are still asleep. They're not going to be asleep long. Everybody's getting rocked awake now, one way or another. People are waking up, and so we have to claim that, and we have to extend a little latitude for people that are just waking up and connect to your own sense of belonging within your own being. That's going to help to step into this new story and to step into your ability to be responsible for your own being so that you are free. Okay, everything you can do for yourself, do it. I'm serious. Don't be upset that other folks are not around all the time, every time to help you, because that's just not where we are right now. You really have to tune in and be able to be self-sufficient. And Uranus is bringing it. It brings the enlightenment, it brings the awakening. Think of electricity. It's quick, fast. I read somewhere, I think it might have been Alan Oken, who's an astrologer, who said it really is intuition. It just moves so fast that you think that it's happening in an instant. But really, when you're connected and you're wired properly, and then I always think about plugging things in when you're hooking up a computer and you've got all the wires and you don't know what goes where, and this doesn't work and that doesn't work. But as soon as you plug it in correctly, poof, we have life, we have light, we have action, we have things moving. Uranus is here to do that for us. Again, with that 20, 40, 60, 80-year process, every 20 years, Uranus gets in the game and says, hey, 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 don't get too comfortable. Let's go. Let's keep it moving. And it makes you aware of the things around you. So it spent 2003 to now, 2010, 7 years in Pisces. Prepare for the tests. The review's coming. Thank God we get the review first, okay? But then you can assess what you think you might be tested on. And I would start with wherever Pisces is in your chart. That's probably where the test will come, or at least in the next realm when it hits Aries. Then it wants to know, how did you process this whole time of Uranus moving through Pisces and completing that journey? Dig into your history and find out what was going on. We're talking the 20s and 30s, the Depression, all the financial stuff that we're dealing with now, certainly in the U.S., was on deck then. And we have the added influence of Pluto going back to Capricorn, which is where it was for the American Revolution. And so we are living in these revolutionary times. We are living at a time where people want to break free from old constraints that no longer serve the purpose they were intended for. And now we're moving into completely new territory where, theoretically, if we can be responsible for ourselves, then we can be free. If we can contribute to the group and the collective and the social community and the community to which we belong, where we we live and eat and sleep. Okay, basic 101. If we can contribute on a certain level to maintaining that, smaller communities, but more of them, you know, and then we could probably sustain that rather than gigantic, this overwhelm that's blown our circuits. And now we have to completely recalibrate because the family has grown. And we've been in the womb all this time. So think about that process. 2003 to 2010, our whole understanding of Christ consciousness and God and spirit and what's been going on in that realm for you. All of that's been undergoing a little Uranus activation, saying, okay, we are one. It's unusual. Some people can commune with other realms and other dimensions and other entities, and you may not understand that, and you may not agree with the concept of even wanting to do that, but you still have to allow it because these people really are capable of this kind of communication. And then getting okay with the fact that maybe every single person is physically wired where it's possible, but everyone isn't drawn to that direction. So allow the people that are willing to do the communication with the other realms to do that, and don't judge it, and be okay with things changing as they are now from this confined, limited, probably dark, watery, think Neptune, Pisces place into this fiery burst, light-filled Aries, whoosh, new energy, new birth, new beginnings, new everything. Okay, 1, 2, 3, new day. That's where we are, and it's a very different way of functioning. It's a different way to God. It's a different way to spirit, and it's a different way to your own personal awakening, which is what Uranus represents, is your liberation from your tiny little micro view. You know, keep in mind, our perspective can be very narrow and limited. So we want to broaden that a little bit and expand our concepts considerably right now. And the whole process was radically shifting our perceptions, how we perceive our world. We got a lot of illusions and delusions on deck so we could see what they look like. And then we see the healing and the overwhelm of the pain and the suffering. You want to think Pisces, all that service versus servant. How much is really altruistic giving, trying to help others, and how much of it is I just don't want to face my own life, so I'm out here doing things with everybody else's life and seeing what I can contribute there. You've got to find the balance. Any extreme in either direction is going to throw you out of whack. So paying attention now for any sudden realizations and ahas. Like I said, the ideas pretty much flow when Uranus is forward, and then when it goes backwards, you might feel a little stagnated, but the truth is you're supposed to process whatever ideas you've already got on deck and work through those so that they're more effective going forward, and so that you're a little more in control of them going forward too. Don't allow your pain, watch that victim consciousness that Pisces has put on the table now, not to allow your pain and wounds to define you. That's not who you are. It's something you've been through. It's a piece, it's a lesson, it's like going to school. It's a different kind of class. You had to take a class in relationships or jobs or whatever that has you in pain and suffering mode, but it's part of your learning. So tune in and get the lesson. The faster you get it, the less you have to repeat it. So that's always useful. And Uranus does break patterns. So we know that the Saturn-Uranus dynamic has been breaking the pattern with Pisces-Virgo, which has a lot to do with the individual and the collective. Virgo's under the horizon. Pisces is the last one above the horizon. So we have this internal, external work going on. We have Saturn, which is very traditional, status quo kind of energy, 3D, what can work here in these boundaries and confines that we have and the parameters we've set forth. And Uranus says, well, how can we go beyond that? And so we've been working that out where healing and human and spirit, human and divine dynamic is concerned. Now that when that moves into Aries Libra, it's a completely different vibration, a completely different flavor is going to be happening when it hits Aries Libra for real. I mean, it's dipped its toe in there. We've got a little introduction. We can feel it. We know it's here. But when it's really in there, your individual being is going to be waking up every day with a new revelation. Your relationships are going to have to change accordingly. And just remember, when you change, everyone around you has to change or go away. That's just the way it is. So be okay with that too, and be okay that it's a process. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is getting into place permanently just yet. We have a couple of years of this chaotic, breaking all the patterns, breaking all the chains, moving into new territory realm before the dust can settle even a little bit. But it will, I promise it will. This is just the big push that has to happen when things reach this kind of critical mass. And Pisces rules addiction. So we found out what the whole world is addicted to besides oil. And there's a long list of addictions that have to go. have to go. When Aries is on deck, Aries wants to do and move and hopefully be the peaceful warrior, but we know that a lot of times things have to get worse before they get better. So we want to pay attention to how much of that we do in our own lives so that it doesn't trickle out into the social and collective realms, but we know we're kind of already past that point. So we have to tune in and do what we can here and now with the consciousness and the resources that we have, and tune into what you want changed. Because if you're ready, like I said, this is going to move it right on through between the planets doing their thing. And then we have the Cancer Capricorn eclipses. That's radically shifting how we do home and work and family and career and our public and private selves. All is one now. We have to recalibrate. We don't even know how to do that because we've been doing it such a different way for so long that now, and that's another 20-year cycle you can tune into as well. So pay attention to how these things overlap and tune into what you're ready to change and ready to release. Just realize that with Uranus, whatever's been in the unconscious realm for you, which is Pisces, is about to come into the light of day. It's about to be conscious now. So that's okay too. Just roll with it however it comes up for you. All along now for a little while, Neptune does 14 years in a sign. Uranus does 7. They've been in what's called mutual reception because Neptune was in Uranus' sign of Aquarius and Uranus was in Pisces, Neptune's sign of. So keep in mind that that's about to end. And then Neptune is going to hit Pisces. So we have Chiron already there. We got Uranus leaving. So Uranus was the first one there, waking up the whole Pisces realm. Christ consciousness, oneness consciousness, unity. This wake-up call has been here for the last 7 years. Chiron's coming in to do the healing necessary because now that we're awake, we realize how hurt we are from the inside out. And then Neptune's going to go home, 165 years. And I looked it up. And I was trying to find like historical events and things, and we're talking the 1830s, 1840s, and it was the first deep sea technological gadget they could put in to measure things under the surface of the water. Well, now we're at a complete cycle of going into our oceans and trying to find things, and now we've officially hit the floor, and we're digging through the floor. I think we need to pause for the cause and do some prayer work on repeating ginormous mistakes that are galvanizing our planet. This is a problem. We need to tune in, but recognize the cycles. That's all I'm saying, is the cycles are so important because we can do this better and we can get together and align our energies and our focus and tune into the light and bring about change in an instant. As this many folks get together and focus on healing and wholeness and light, it's going to happen. So be prepared for that. And don't give in to the doom and gloom, because personally I feel like I just told someone today that the oil incident here in the Gulf, the most recent one, because there are several. This one just seems to be getting the most attention at the moment. This is what I liken to Ryan White, the young child who got AIDS back in the 80s, whenever it was, because he brought the awareness that this wasn't just a sex or a drug disease. He brought awareness. Yes, it was a sacrifice of his life, and we're very sad and sorry for that and their family, but it still woke people up. This little catastrophe, this big catastrophe, is doing for us. So there's always opportunities. Spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is always presenting opportunities for us to grow and evolve and change. We can do this. Tuning in to this rhythm, like I said, for right now, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever you can wrap your brain around and get clear on what story you want to tell and how you can be more independent and self-sufficient is huge. There's a couple of things I wanted to share. One of them is from Carol Jackson, alphalifetrends.com. And she's actually, I'm going to link the article on Uranus, but she's got a great site as well. And she gets into the numerology. So one of the things I wanted to mention, and if Nan is here, Nan Fortune is our resident numerologist. She may want to speak on this at the end, but with that 7-year cycle, Carol refers to this, any kind of 7 years, the testing ground for the disciples of truth. And Jupiter and Uranus are nothing if not all about truth. So she says, because Uranus stays in one sign for 7 years, it is often the planet that is considered the testing ground of the disciples. Often the experiences during a 7-year cycle of Uranus in a particular sign bring in the same type of challenges over and over again, regardless of what we do and regardless of the efforts to thrust change. It is as if events are not connected to our actions at all, but instead are occurring to see how we respond to the events. This is especially true in those events that are seemingly unfairly set against us. These type of events are the telltale sign of a 7-year testing ground for the disciples of truth. So be prepared to be tested on your truth in terms of the Piscean realm as you move into Aries. And so she goes on to say that we're shifting a generation of events, because you've got to consider the realm that 7 years covers. I mean, that covers a lot of ground, and a lot of babies are going to be born during that 7-year period. This is a generation of sorts. So with Uranus turning direct in December of '09, okay, at the end of last year, we entered this zone, as it were. And Jupiter moved in to Pisces in January 17th, we will be on the road to the shift of a generation of events. Uranus assesses situations, and Jupiter assists in the process to unfold the scroll of situations. Okay, so again, with Jupiter wants to make meaning out of it. Uranus is going to break up the monotony, and it's going to open up new paths and things, but Jupiter says, where's the truth? What's the story here? Once seen and reviewed, Uranus will touch back into Pisces for a short time, bringing forward the appropriate resolutions and put them into books of time and close out the Pisces issues to put back on the shelf. Pisces is the end of the zodiac and thus has a sense of completion and ending to quote-unquote karma and the like. If there are issues that require adjustments or disclosures before this can happen, Uranus will bring total perspective of the inner and outer workings of situations so as to facilitate a completion. Jupiter moving through Pisces does this as it blows through Pisces January to June. Once the scroll of events is unfolded, complete with facts and findings, Jupiter's the researcher, remember, then Jupiter and Uranus move into the new sign of Aries to shift the choices, decisions, and events into the Aries focus to be revised. This brings all into view and into a new accountability focus. In the later part of 2010, both Jupiter and Uranus move back into Pisces to complete the current project of Pisces, auditing the inner world, bringing rewards to those who have experienced the 7-year challenge as a disciple of truth. Jupiter and Uranus move out of Pisces and close the Pisces book of time, bringing the chosen response of spiritual growth and spiritual connection to the reality of those who walked the path of truth in the midst of challenges. So this is huge, everybody. And just to keep in mind what you can reflect on in terms of the last 7 years and the next 7 years and how different the dynamics are. With Virgo, Pisces, and Gemini, Sag being mutable, they're more flexible and fluid, and they adapt a little bit easier. As we move into Cardinal, in addition to the eclipses, in addition to the Grand Cross, in addition to all this activation and movement, choices and decisions are going to be the theme for the next couple of months. So just keep that in mind. Where we were thinking about it and mulling it around and we could postpone certain choices and decisions, that's not going to work now for the rest of the summer. So just get ready. And that's why knowing your truth, number one, and having some kind of spiritual practice is so useful and important, because you are going to have to make decisions on a dime, and you're not going to get as much time as you would like to process and delineate what's useful and not, so that you can make the best decision possible. That's why you have to be centered from the get-go, so that whatever you're doing is the best you can do at that time. I am going to link all these articles because they're all really juicy and they have a lot more to offer. Stephanie Austin of Eco Astrology speaks to the Pluto thing. So remember what I said, how Pluto digs it up. So as it's still moving through Capricorn, it's affecting this dynamic of Aries and Libra. Okay, as we individuals and social realms get a balancing going on, Pluto's working the collective whole. It's working the big picture. And she says Pluto reveals the shadow of whatever sign it transits. The dark side of Capricorn is the victim tyrant archetype, which are two sides of the same coin. Pluto's passage through Capricorn will challenge our social ideas and legal standards around blame and liability, power and responsibility. There's no free lunch with Pluto and Capricorn, and zero tolerance for victim consciousness. Okay, all this Pisces energy and Chiron moving in for the next 8 years, believe me, victim consciousness is widely available, but we don't have to subscribe to it, and we can help contribute to the extent that you can and then move on in terms of helping others. Pluto reminds us that we always have a choice, and that when we abdicate our responsibility, we're also giving away our power. Saturn is the planet most associated with Capricorn, which again engages, Saturn 3D again, draws our awareness toward physical realities, limits we must respect, Resources we must steward, and consequences we must acknowledge. Saturn is associated with the law of karma, the principle of cause and effect. Karma is not punishment, but simply the natural result of our actions. What we sow, we reap. If we plant raspberries, we do not expect redwoods. If we pollute the air and water, we suffer illness and deprivation. When we cultivate respect and appreciation, we experience peace and abundance. Saturn says you always have choices and you will experience the consequences of those choices. Saturn square Pluto, which we're also feeling all the whole time Saturn's in Libra, just consider it a loose square to Pluto in Capricorn. In effect, the fall of 2009 through summer 2010, and the opposition to Uranus, fall of 2008 through summer of 2010, we're in it, illuminates what we have chosen in the past and the options we are facing now. What are our bodies, our emotions, and our environment showing us? Where do we need to take charge, and what needs to change? These are ultimately the questions asked by all of this little adventure we're on here. And being as prepared as possible, recognizing the patterns that you can pick up and pick out is extremely useful. The Jupiter and Pisces call would be relevant. I'm going to link a couple of other calls. There's a Neptune-Uranus call that's old but extremely relevant. And on my free audios downloads page, there are samples for every single audio. So going back, a lot of the 2008 cycles are culminating now. And I listened to many of those as I posted them, and it was just an incredible confirmation of so much of the work I've done. And I don't know about you all, but you get in the mode and you get in the flow and you're moving and moving and moving. You don't even realize how much you've actually accomplished and cleared out. Okay, as much clearing as we still have to do, and there is still a lot of cleanup on deck, you still have already released so much. So giving yourself credit, getting that inspiration and motivation to keep moving is useful with hindsight. So don't think that these calls are truly outdated, because they're not. They're cycles that have been ongoing, and any kind of clarity that you can use from them will be extremely useful in navigating through the process we're in right now. We just want to review when these guys do go retrograde. Take that into account. Like I said, the next two activations are a retrograde and a direct in Pisces. So at that time, you want to review your concept of freedom within the context of your family and community, how you contribute to a new system of advancement as we move humanity along. We want to be able to contribute in some way. That, again, could just be by you getting yourself together. Okay? It starts there. As you balance and calibrate and get in some kind of rhythm and flow and effectiveness of your own choices and behavior, you're going to affect the larger dynamics. You also want to work on that healing, because that's ultimately what Pisces is all about, is getting that complete healing so that you can develop into something new. Once the wounds are healed, you're not the same person. Once the stories are done and over, there's no need to repeat them. So really getting down on some new energy, new information, keeping in mind that the turnaround times are July and then November, December, when they go direct. So that's going to put us toward the end of the year. That means this whole review throughout summer and fall, these guys are going to be backwards while other things are going forward, and that's fine. And then when we look at the big cycles, I also just want to put this on the table, because part of what Jupiter and Uranus hitting Aries is doing is activating, like I said, a big 20, 40, 80-year cycle. So not to get too crazy, but just understand that as Jupiter moves through a different sign every year. So in a couple of years, it's going to hit Cancer. 2013 and 2014 is going to be the first test of what we initiate here and now. This year, 2010, 2011, whatever we initiate now is going to get tested in 2013, 2014. Uranus is still going to be in Aries, but Jupiter's going to be in Cancer. So those two dynamics are going to go at it. And then the integration is going to be Aries Libra. But by then, Jupiter's moving so fast. We're talking 2016, 2017 when we get the opposition, and then it moves on. And so the next square is actually going to be Aquarius and Taurus, which doesn't have anything to do. They're fixed. But the cardinal is the first three of this. So let's say 60 of the 80 years, or on the lower scales, every 3 years, you're going to be tested. You're going to have to integrate. You're going to have to process what's going on around you. And Jupiter's going to go on, like we had Saturn and Uranus. Now we're going to have Saturn and Jupiter in oppositions to each other this year. It's going to be in August. It's going to hit it 3 times as well. And the other thing with Uranus for 7 years in Aries is going to hit Pluto 7 times, you guys. 3 is normal, okay? 5, Saturn Uranus was 5. That was excessive. 7 is off the charts. So we've got total radical shift Uranus, liberation, freedom, new day, by any means necessary, and Pluto, ultimate permanent transformation going on. So these guys are working it out over this entire 7-year period, and that's huge. So in that case, you can really tune into this global change. It is already happening. It's already happening. So in that case, it moves us to the juicy, delicious divinations. This is Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela Eakins, and she has tarotofthespirit.com. And we're only going to read one in its entirety. But I did do 5, which is another magical number of change. Pulled 3 cards for general guidance, and then above and below, which is the top and bottom card. So I'm going to run through these quickly if everyone wants to just take a quick deep breath and relax and open for this delicious guidance that is going to help us. Now, the guidance I asked for was basically general guidance on Jupiter and Uranus getting together. What did we need to know, understand, what needs to be revealed, what needs to be engaged? What is the overview here that we can use when we get confused or when we get down or when we're not as motivated as we can be and should be for forward movement? The first 3 cards I pulled were 6 of Fire, which is glory, and 8 of Earth, which is the mountain. Then I pulled a major arcana card, the Moon, and that was our 3 cards for guidance. Above and below, above was Water Sister, so more moon, flow, water, energy, and below was Resurrection, number 20 in the major arcana. Moon is number 18. So for 6 of Fire, Glory, the first card I pulled for general guidance on Jupiter and Uranus moving into Aries. The struggle has been difficult. It is as if you have fought a battle and now all you have left is the bloody fruit which you have won. Make an offering of this fruit. Surrender your winnings. To move into a state of harmony and beauty, you must understand that glory, however much you covet it, is a brief and fleeting thing. The truth is that which endures deep inside of yourself over time. Okay, this one made me think about the sacrifice, the willing sacrifices we have to make as individuals and as groups. We're going to have to give something up. Mother has given up so much for us. We really are going to have to do this willingly to yield the benefit. That was what I thought of when I read that, was again with the willing sacrifice. It's okay to be abundant and to be who we are, which is completely provided for, but we have to work with her on some level. And then the mountain, the 8 of Earth, says perseverance, commitment, and discipline are the real keys to success. Talent is important, but not the most important factor. You are learning, practicing, growing, and blossoming. This is a good time to be an eager student. It is as if you are climbing a great mountain in your life. The way may seem steep or rocky, but you will get there if you walk one step at a time, thoughtfully and cheerfully, placing one foot in front of the other. The important thing is not necessarily the view from the top, but how you feel during each step on the path. And so this again spoke to just staying present and doing what you can physically do as an individual and not blowing your circuits so you're completely useless and ineffective anyway. So one thing at a time, one step at a time, clearing before you build. Remember, the last 18 months have been, the full moon has preceded the new moon. So we know that we have to clear the debris and clear a space for new energy to come in before we can plant new seeds. And I think that's part of it too. If we willingly make some changes and some personal sacrifices, simplifying our lives on multiple levels and getting our priorities straight, knowing what's really important to you, then we can actually make this move. And then with the moon, this one says, you cannot see the future clearly, but you must stay on your chosen path. Trust your intuition. At your darkest hour, you will find that you hold your own light. Use your own light to overcome your fears. Shedding light on your fears will propel you toward self-understanding, strength, and self-confidence. Through this process, you will heal and move forward into happiness. Okay, so again, with internal compass, everyone, that's what I get from the moon. This is what will help you navigate. But if you numb your feelings and you choose not to feel things because everything is just so overwhelming, then you're not going to be effective. So we have to be clear. Think water, flow, clarity. We want to be clear about who we are and what we want. We've had a lot of help in that department over the last year. And we want to listen to our bodies and to our intuition and follow it. Most importantly, take a step of action. Okay, after we come out of Pisces intuition realm, we get into Aries action realm. And this is going to be the ultimate message. It's okay to process and it's okay to feel your way through, but then what are you doing about it? Mars Aries wants to do. Don't want to hear all the talk about it. Let's get moving. And then above was Water Sister, and she is love divine. Trust your feelings and impressions. You are on the right path. You are strongly connected to earth, water, and sky, and the passage of all seasons. So again, with getting in rhythm with nature, maintain your strong connection and stay attuned to the earth by meditating frequently. You are blessed with the ability to know intuitively that which others do not have access to. Okay, listen to this. Pisces is intuition, Aries is instinctive. Okay, we want our intuition and our instincts sharp and honed and connected and vital and alive. And think Uranus, electrical currents. We want those currents open and firing at its highest capacity in the best possible way. Now, resurrection, which I believe if we work this properly and we do the completion and the closure that we have to do on minor and grand scales, we can move into this new territory perfect, whole, and complete. We really can, you guys. This is doable. We have each other. We are all expanding out in other realms and other ways. We have the support. The consciousness has shifted. The scales have tipped. There are enough numbers of souls focused on the light and the healing and the fusion of all the fragments that have been scattered around the universe to come back together and be whole again. That's Pisces is all about the wholeness. As we gather that feeling or sense of wholeness within our being, moving instinctually can become natural again. You know, we've been cut off from our instincts and corralled into these forms and think Saturn 3D boundaries and limitations that it's just time to change them. That's all. Resurrection is number 20 in the major arcana. Your personal perceptions and consciousness shall dissolve, Pisces, to be replaced by the deepest understanding possible. You are in the final stage of knowledge as you know it. You are about to be resurrected into new thinking, into completely new stage. It is as if you are entering a new eon or cycle in the grand scheme of your life. Let this happen naturally and beautifully. Do not fear change. You have earned the right to ascend. You have earned your rewards. You deserve every good thing that is happening to you. And so in this case, resurrection, redemption, all of the above, again, micro to macro. I just believe if we are authentic in our search and research and facing our own light and shadow sides of our own beings and the choices and the complicity, the work that we have done and the work that we have shirked. All of the above is culminating now. That's what Pisces and Aries is all about. It's the completion initiation process. All at the same time. All at the same time, we have to let go of who we were to step into who we are. And we have to let go of the way the world has operated thus far for this 84-year cycle at least. I mean, let's just wrap our brain around that one and start anew, completely fresh and clean and one, without judging each other or each other's process or what it takes to wake up this group or that group, or not judging any of it. All of it is divine, and every child on this planet has their role to play. All of it is divine order. And we have to stop judging it as right or wrong or good or bad or any of that. It is what it is. Let's deal with what is. Okay, yeah, it used to be this and it could be that, but what is it right now in this moment? And what it always is energy. And energy is constantly moving. There's no static energy. It can get blocked temporarily, but you can't even permanently block it because Uranus will come and blow it up. So, final closing remarks, and we will open for questions. And this comes from realastrologers.com. And she's speaking of the Cardinals T-square, which is, that's what these two are part of, is the Aries, Libra, Capricorn is all engaged, directly engaged and ongoing. They are all engaged for the next 1 to 3 to 7 years. Okay, so there's plenty of stuff to tune into. Whatever you need is available. There is support available. She says, within the Cardinal T-square is polarization and extreme tension. Polarization is at the root of every conflict on the planet right now, and it all goes back to the separation of the fundamental masculine and feminine energies. We're stuck, and the only way out of it is going to be a major breakthrough in consciousness, which is already underway, everyone, if we don't kill each other first, she says. Breakthroughs are not possible without first having a breakdown, and that happens when the ego gives up and stops fighting. The ego is invested in hanging on tightly to old wounds. Experienced for long enough, our fears, insecurities, and paranoia become so much a part of us that we may take them for granted and not even realize how much they are affecting us. If we do manage to release them, we feel an odd emptiness, like something is missing. I believe that an increase in consciousness will come simultaneously with the opening of our hearts, individually and collectively. We have to open our hearts and keep them open despite repeated hurt, and we have to work to clear out the energies that prevent love from taking root. Okay, that's Cancer's all about roots. Love makes us whole, but it can't descend on us and bestow its light unless we clear a space for it in our hearts. For those of you who are working on making the world safe for love, I want to encourage you to keep going. I am optimistic that we're about to turn a corner, even though it seems like we're in the darkest hour, and that in the outside world, it's feeling a lot like war in the 7 plagues. I leave you with the video, which she must have linked in her article, to Soldier of Love, the first album in 10 years by Sade, a Capricorn, ruler of the military. She is back just in time for the Cardinal T Square. And what about those Mayan ruins on her album cover? Just a coincidence? And I will tell you, Soldier of Love is an excellent song. But this is it, everyone. We don't have to give in to the doom and gloom. We can tune in to the possibilities and to the new beginning and to our own responsibility for our own peace and contribution, and come together when we can come together, and go off and do solo work when it's time for solo work, and get in a natural rhythm and flow. The industrial age has made us lazy and complacent in ways that living on this planet we cannot afford. This is, think nature, think animals. They up and move when disasters come or nature takes over or storms blow out their homes and things. They move. They don't wah wah. They don't cry. There's no self-pity in the natural world. It's just pick up your bed and walk. Let's go. And we have each other. We have the support. We have the knowledge. We even have the heads up from the planets as to what's coming next, so we can prepare to a certain extent. And then the rest we still have to trust. We still have to just do our part and trust that all is moving in the right direction. And it is. It really is. So many other breakthroughs are happening. They just don't get a lot of mass media attention. I assure you, young people are waking up. I've got young people tuning in. I never used to have people in the power circle under 30. And now, as soon as they hit 30, they're right on my doorstep. I love it. It's amazing because they're ready earlier than ever before to do this work and to contribute. And they want to participate. And finally, the young people are realizing the planetary issues. And so they're kicking in with their youthful zest and energy and making changes too. So all is not lost. It's just in transition. That's all. And work that clean slate, work that new story, and liberate yourself from old wounds and old stories and past mistakes and past choices. It is what it is. Let's just work it from here. Okay? Wow, closure. There's a nice clean slate. I love it. Wow, that's huge. Congratulations. You're doing it for all of us, clearing the past. Every time any one of us does this, you guys, we are doing it for everyone. As much as you can release, for those people who keep holding on and can't release, just think of every time you releasing something, you're releasing it for all of us. I swear, I feel that in my bones. The work that I do and the rituals that I do, yes, it's for everyone. I love it. Thank you, Diana, for doing that. Yes, masculine feminine is getting a reworking too. Cancer Capricorn is ultimate masculine feminine energy. So we're definitely doing that. And then in the big 26,000 year earthly cycle, we've had 13,000 years of masculine dominated, and really 2012 is the turning point. It's that point of changeover where we get back into feminine ways of operating on this planet, which is just exactly what we need. So it's on time. Perfect. We're here. We're participating. Lots of gratitude. Good night. And just go to sleep dreaming tonight about the clean slate, new beginnings. It's available. and we're in it. We're already there, so get your rhythm. And don't be upset when you miss a step. It's okay. It's part of learning how to dance and how to walk and talk all over again at this new level. It's just part of it. It's part of it. Be okay with it. And let that judgment go for yourselves first. Stop judging your own process. It is what it is. Just roll with it and see where it takes you, and try to, do your best in every moment. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. And then you got to just release it. But don't go to sleep. We have to stay awake for this transition and do it consciously. Like I said, change and independence is completely supported, so if you're ready, the universe is there to assist. And we're going deeper, everyone. So let's get our rhythm, get our dancing shoes on, and be ready to play in new sandboxes with new ideas and new toys, and get this rhythm. That's the biggest thing. It's just stop, grow, integrate, process. We want to be able to do it in flow and keep moving. No stagnation. A lot of people want to go and sit in one place, and that's just not going to work anymore. So my fixed people need to work on that in terms of being okay with changing on a dime, out of the blue. Something changes. You've got to deal with whatever it is right in front of you. Yeah, we might want it this way or that way, or the old way or the new way even, but it is what it is. Let's work with what we've got and stay present. Stay present. Most of all, deep breaths.